I had initially assumed Dororo was the name of the boy whose organs the demons had taken. Apparently it is not. My bad. I was wrong in speaking of things that are wrong. If I thought Ichika Hanasaki from Hanabata was a horrible parent, I was proven otherwise because Daigo Kajamatis for sure ain't winning any Father of the Year awards, or any awards related to good parenting. Dude basically offers his son to 48 demons so he can take over the nation because priorities. Well, technically he offers anything and the demons decided to take his child's organs and Daigo for sure wasn't grieving for his firstborn. Instead he laughs and exclaims that yes, getting power because once again, priorities. I feel horrible for the mother because Daigo basically treats her like a childbearing machine. The poor woman just wanted to hold her son in her arms until he died, but Daigo hands him over to the midwife and tells her, "You will bear another child. You must, Wow, dude. I don't think you deserve whatever power is coming your way." Was divorce available back then? Because I recommend it. The midwife floats the baby down the river in a small boat because she feels sorry for him and her luck must be run out because she is eaten by a ghoul right after. The ghoul is killed by an old man though, so his luck was out too. 16 years later, the boy is called Hikakimpert. According to Mal, is grown up and has been fitted with deadly prosthetics thanks to a doctor called Juki. This is where we also meet the titular character, Dororo. He is a sly and clever little child who tricks and steals to survive. He is being beaten up by merchants whose wares he stole and tried to sell off when he encounters Hikakimpert. Hikakimpert is on a mission to beat the 48 demons and get his organs back. He defeats one and gets the skin on his face back. Dororo watches in fear and asks Hikakimpert whether he is human. Somewhere else, Daigo is on his high horse literally watching the lightning in the skies. He realizes something when one of lightning strikes closer to him and he goes to the Hall of Hell where he made the deal with the demons. He sees one of idols have been split in half and expresses shock. Looking back, it is possible that this may have been the lightning, but I don't really know. Daigo also has a son Tahomaru who refers to himself in the third person and is quite carefree, going off hunting for turtle daves when there is a storm going on. He exclaims to his mother that it will make her strong and goes off to cook it, hinting that maybe the mother is ill. His mother, the poor woman, reminisces that it was raining like this when Hikakimpert was born. She still remembers him and has the broken statue of a god from that day too. Apparently divorce wasn't an option. The plot is quite gripping and I am looking forward to Hikakimpert defeating the demons. I am also curious to how Dororo and Hikakimpert's relationship will unfold and develop. Daigo hopefully getting his just deserts will be highly enjoyable too. I already disliked Tahomaru and he has only been in the episode for a few episodes. I am not sure if it is justified, so that is all. The old man from the first episode makes an appearance. He is blind and is able to see the fire of the soul just like Hikakimpert. The color helps differentiate between individuals, beings that were hostile and those that weren't. The man is confronted by a peculiar creature ringing a bell and he just says, "Oye." Hikakimpert and Dororo are walking along a river where Dororo expresses his curiosity on Hikakimpert's disposition, wondering aloud on whether he can see or hear, how he has blades in his arms, how he is able to fight so well if he can see or hear, and also exclaims on how impressed he was with the way he fought the demon. Hikakimpert must be gotten hungry and starts to eat berries and Dororo continues the one-way conversation. Hikakimpert also spears fish with his blade with accuracy and is about to eat them raw when Dororo cooks it for him and tries to enlist him in the schemes Dororo runs. We also find out that Dororo is the second person who has stayed by his side instead of wandering off. Dororo hears of a village that is under a monster attack and drags Hikakimpert with him in a means of making money. The array given food and shelter and come face to face with the peculiar creature with a bell. Dororo is alarmed and tries to get Hikakimpert to do something, but as he senses no danger, Hikakimpert does nothing. The next day, they are taken to the village chief called Bandai. Hikakimpert draws his blade and Dororo tries to stop him. The other villagers come in and throw the two in a room where they meet the old blind man. The man informs Dororo about seeing soul flames and Dororo infers that Hikakimpert must see things the same way. The two soul flames here sense something and are on guard. Hikakimpert and the others enter a well through the room and come out near Bandai's home where Dororo discovers that she is actually a demon. Hikakimpert slays her and Dororo tells the old man that Bandai looked like his dead mother. Hikakimpert senses Dororo is upset and writes his name in the soil, which the old man reads out to Dororo. The old man also realizes that he saw Hikakimpert at the river the day he killed the ghoul that had eaten the midwife. Back at Palace Daigo, this is how I am referring to his house from now on. Things are getting rough and another demon is split in half in the Hall of Hell, so it wasn't lightning after all. As he has slain a demon, Hikakimpert gets another part of his body back. As the episode title suggests, this episode is all about Juki. Juki used to work for Lord Shibuya's army where he would nail people on crosses. I have no idea if he was nailing the enemy or their own people, but yeah, Juki was crucifying people left, right and center. His wife was also killed quite abruptly by Lord Shibuya's army and in his grief, he flings himself off a cliff. This part is quite confusing to me as I have no idea if this all happens one after the other or whether there is a time lapse between the events. Years later, he works as a doctor and makes prosthetics, a skill he learned from foreigners who has saved him after he tried to commit suicide. He now has an assistant called Kanam, an orphan whom Juki had saved and given a prosthetic leg to. During a patient's visit, Kanem finds out that Juki was a part of Lord Shibuya's army and tries to kill him as his father had been crucified. Juki tells him that he can do what he wants after he makes the prosthetic for their new patient, and Kanem reluctantly lets him go. After the job is done, Kanem leaves Juki and his prosthetic behind. Juki takes a walk by a river, stumbles and falls, and this where Juki finds him. There's a little emphasis placed on a shrine by the road of the river and made me realize that there's heavy symbolism on the fact that Hikakimper is being protected by the gods. First the sacrifice made by the statue in the first episode, and now this. Juki fixes Hikakimper with prosthetics and finds a reason to live again. Juki is also the one who names Hikakimper. Time leaps are shown as Hikakimper grows up. You are also able to see the differences between how he was raised by Juki and how Hamaru was raised by Daigo. As Hikakimper grows up, Juki realizes that monsters, ghouls, and demons are attracted to Hikakimper and teaches him how to fight. After an encounter with a demon where Hikakimper gets one of his legs back, Juki pieces the fact that the demons must have taken his limbs in the first place. He fixes the prosthetics with knives and gives his blessings to Hikakimper to go on his journey. There's a very touching moment between the two before they part ways. In the present, the old man tells Dororo that someone must have struck a deal with the demons and Hikakimper's body was the payment. Dororo vocalizes his displeasure as Hikakimper decides to test his newfound ability to feel pain by stepping on fire. Dororo pulls him back as the old man looks on. Juki is now traveling from place to place, fitting prosthetics on dead soldiers whose body parts are missing, and he still thinks of Hikakimper. Unlike some people Hidega cough. The biggest question I had this episode was why did the demons take everything but his hair? I noticed this during the fight scenes in the episode because I didn't really pay much attention to it in the other episodes, but Hikakimper has really nice hair. I'm glad the demons didn't at least take that. Hikakimper is enjoying the rain as Dororo tells Osushi, a peddler, that Hikakimper is dead when she tried to call out to him. Osushi used to be from a good family, but her parents died and she lost the land and house after her brother, Tanosuke, went off to war. She prays for his return even though it has been 5 years since he left. While Dororo and Osushi are conversing, Hikakimper senses the demon sword Nahora. Hikakimper fights with the wielder of the sword and defeats him as the sword gets stuck in his leg, which goes flying off. The wielder falls off a cliff and it turns out Osushi's brother. He come in possession of the sword thanks to the lord he was serving and has been fulfilling Nahura's thirst for blood. Osushi takes her brother to where she is staying and begs him to stay with her or return home, but he is too obsessed with Nahura. Meanwhile, Dororo, who had gone off to fetch Hikakimper's airborne prosthetic, is being pulled by Nahura towards Tanosuke. Hikakimper manages to knock the sword out of Dororo's hands, but Tanosuke picks up the sword. Hikakimper and Tanosuke fight once again and Tanosuke is killed. Hikakimper manages to cut the sword in two and his ears are returned to him. Back at the Hall of Hell, Father of the Year not Daigo-san has begun the search for the midwife, and any information on the baby as yet another statue is split in two. Hikakimper just can't catch a break. He has gotten his hearing back, but he is so unused to all the sounds that it distracts him while he is fighting a monster and he gets hurt. Hikakimper manages to escape thanks to the old man, who, if he found from Mal, is called Bawomara. I love the progress between Dororo and Hikakimper and the fact that Dororo refers to Hikakimper as Niki. In the forest, Hikakimper hears a girl singing and finds Mayo but collapses from his injuries. Mayo takes Hikakimper, Dororo and Bawomara to a shrine she stays at with children who were orphaned thanks to the war between Sakai and Daigo. Good going Daigo. Palace Daigo is crumbling bit by bit as Hikakimper is destroying the monsters who granted Daigo his power. Lady Daigo, now named Lady Bamf, even though Mal tells me it's Neonokta, reminds Daigo of this as Hamaru looks on from a distance with suspicious eyes. Meanwhile, Bawomara finds a better place for everyone to stay at, but unfortunately, it is inhabited by a demon. Hikakimper goes to fight the terminatalized monster but gets his real leg is bitten off and his voice is returned. Dororo also follows Mayo to her workplace and finds out that Mayo works as a prostitute. She finds out that Hikakimper is able to see the color of souls and is uncomfortable as she thinks her soul may be a disgusting color and Hikakimper may judge her. Mayo returns and takes care of the hurt Hikakimper. They spend some time together and Mayo helps Hikakimper adjust to sound by singing to him. Bawomara comments that Mayo's voice calms Hikakimper and he doesn't see the red curse marks on his soul. Though he isn't fully healed, Hikakimper arms himself with the swords the children took from the battlefield and heads out to defeat the monster. His leg is healed when he does and he heads off to the shrine with Dororo as they see smoke rising from its direction. Dororo and Hikakimper arrive to find Daigo's soldiers smun someone just killed that bastard already have killed the children and have fatally wounded Mayo on the assumption that she is a Sakai spy. Hikakimper realizes Mayo is dying from the song she always sings and snaps, killing the soldiers in a frenzy. Dororo is worried that Hikakimper will turn into a monster and stops him by showing the rice seeds Mayo had with her. Dororo tells Hikakimper that Mayo didn't lose so he shouldn't either. Hikakimper hugs Mayo's body and her name is his first word. Dororo and Hikakimper leave the temple after burying everyone, taking the seeds with them, and the episode ends with Mayo singing and the scenery changing from a green forest to a golden rice paddy. Almost forgot. Back at Palace Daigo, Tahamar is trying to convince his father to send him to battle and spouting arrogant lines like how he'll be victorious against the Sakai soldiers because he has so much experience. He is also quite rude to his mother, accusing her of not loving him when he is not even aware of what Daigo has put her through. I do feel a little bad for him though, as a flashback of his childhood is shown where he wants Nyanokta's attention, but she is praying to the idol in the room that she gave birth to Hikakimpra. Tahamar realizes that there is something his parents aren't telling him, and I am hoping he is going to dig deep into what it is. So the monster in this episode was a not psychotic? I know! What a kicker! So, this lady here is a monster that lives off of the life force of human insects too, but humans are better but doesn't kill them because if they ray alive, they can generate more life force and she can feed from them again. Thus living together in harmony and kumbaya and all that, but she is a monster, so I am not sure I trust her 100%. Anyway, so, the Spitterly fights against Hikakimpra, who is still sad over Mai's death, as it's seen that he is clutching the seed pouch while walking with Dororo in the beginning of the episode, but she escapes, wounded and weak. She is found by a man called Yairo who feeds her and allows her to rest in his home. He names her Ohaji as the Spitterly tells him she has no name. Yairo is so kind that he forgoes his meal so Ohaji will have enough to eat. Now, I should mention that I was praying for Yairo's safety throughout the episode because, he is living with a life-force sucking Spitterly. But turns out, I didn't have to worry. Ohaji is so touched by Yoiro's kindness and gentle nature that she holds back on eating him even though she is getting weaker and weaker. Instead, she enjoys the food he gives her and whatever insect she comes across. Meanwhile, Hikakimpra and Dororo are in the same village and are after whoever is kidnapping all the men. Well, to be honest, Dororo is because of the reward. Dororo is sure that Ohaji is behind the kidnappings and looks for her at night. Yairo notices that Ohaji is getting weaker and tells her they need to leave as there are no doctors in the village and it'll be difficult to do so as no one is allowed to leave unless they have a visitor's pass, which Ohaji does not, so they'll have to sneak out. Now, here is where the biggest plot twist comes in. The men are being kidnapped. Yairo is sneaking them out. Living and work conditions are hard in the village, so Yairo has been helping people escape. Yairo and Ohaji come across Dororo and Hikakimpra while trying to escape. Hikakimpra attacks Ohaji, but once again, she manages to get away. The soldiers are after them as well at this point, and Ohaji manages to subdue them, but not before they injure Yairo. Hikakimpra also arrives at the scene but does not attack Ohaji as the color of her soul changes when she worries about Yairo, indicating that she is no longer a threat. We also get a little laugh from Hikakimpra at the end of the episode when Dororo and him leave the village to continue the journey, so I am happy that this was a slightly happier and lighter episode than the last one. No, the demon in this episode is not called Saru. That DB silly. Saru is the name of a little mountain boy. The demon, however, is called Nakosoksuero. Try saying that 10 times. Nakosoksuero is a centipedically monster who is able to produce a cloud of ash. It looks something like this. Nakosoksuero is terrorizing a village and the only way to make him stop is to give him a bride because, demons get lonely too. Now, I hope you remember Saru from before because the lucky girl who gets to be the bride is a kind woman whom Saru considers a sister. Saru was ostracized by people and had become distrustful of people, but this lady was kind to him and thus he decided to save her. Dororo and Hikakimpra also decide to help him, but Hikakimpra is unable to land a hit on Nakosoksuero. He sees the entire Alshal cloud as a red wall and is unable to pick out Nakosoksuero less 4 minutes. They are unable to save the woman as she gets swallowed by Nakosoksuero and the trio decide to retreat. They are stuck on what they should do now as Hikakimpra can't do anything against the demon and the other two are, well, children. Saru and Dororo don't lose hope though, and Dororo comes up with a plan. They plan to allow sunlight to penetrate through the thick, black cloud to defeat him, as Dororo had noticed previously that Nakosoksuero is unable to bear sunlight. The plan fails as the demon just produces more ash and blocks off whatever little light managed to peek through the cloud. The two are now totally screwed because Nakosoksuero is pissed. Wait, Hikakimpra comes to the rescue. Now you may ask, but in Kesslajexers, Hikakimpra can't see the demon. What can he do? You're right. He can see, but he can hear. He uses rocks and Dororo's voice to guide him towards the demon and defeats it, even splitting it in half from the inside. And guess who they find once the demon is defeated? The bride! She was swallowed whole and for some reason, she had been digested. And guess what else? Hikakimpra got his nose back! So the woman is safe and Hikakimpra can smell things now. Saru decides to live with his adopted sister and Dororo and Hikakimpra set out on their travels once again. Hikakimpra also calls Dororo's name for the first time. Well, Hikakimpra seems to be enjoying his nose. Dororo gets sick in this episode and Hikakimpra takes her, to a temple for treatment. If you read my previous recaps, you'll see I've avoided using gender pronouns for her because I was waiting for the big reveal since I knew it was coming, so surprise to all of you who didn't now. Hikakimpra has also started to speak and I am so proud and happy for him. Though it is a little broken, He manages to get his point across that Dororo is sick when he is asking people for help. Dororo wakes up as a kind nun is treating her and she is frantic for Hikakimpura, exclaiming that he'll leave her behind. The nun assures Dororo that Hikakimpura has gone to fetch some water and she calms down a little. Dororo also mentions her parents in this episode and I felt a flashback appearing any moment. I was not disappointed. Dororo's father, Hibukuro, was the leader of, well, I guess you can say the equivalent of what we call a gang these days. They beat up samurai and stole from them because why not? I am sure there is a reason because Daigo is mentioned and I am down for anyone beating up his samurai. All jokes aside, to be completely honest, the actual reason is to teach them a lesson, but it feels wish-washy to me because the samurai have lords. Yes, the lords who probably order them to do things, so why not go after the lords? The samurai don't take Hibukuro and his gang's rebellion very well. They are able to find Hibukuro's gang and kill majority of the members. Hibukuro rounds up more men and continue their crusade of raiding, harming samurai only. Itachi, a shady-looking fellow, tells Hibukuro that it is time to look at the future and that a lord would give him a very good position, considering his men are doing so well. Now remember what I said about samurai having lords. If they join the lord, wouldn't they be the same? I may be wrong in the logistics of it, but it sounds counterproductive to me. Ojiya, Dororo's mother, seems to be the only one with a good head and tells off Itachi. Hibukuro is more straightforward with his answer and punches him. I am not very good with reading signals, but I am guessing that indicated that Hibukuro's answer was a resounding no. Itachi, living true to his shady appearance, betrays everyone by leading them into an ambush set up by the lord of the area. He damages Hibukuro's legs and Dororo's family fall on hard times where they even raid dead soldiers for survival. While traveling, the small family comes across a group of samurai burning down a village to clear up a path for some lord's soldiers. At this point, I am convinced the lords lack empathy and compassion and their ick levels probably rival a newborn child's. Ojiya tells Hibukuro not to do anything, but one person recognizes Hibukuro and attacks. Hibukuro manages to kill the samurai, but he is fatally wounded. Things do not go very well for Ojiya and Dororo after that. They ray hungry and have no shelter. One day, are told by a man that the samurai are giving out food at a nearby temple. At this point, you're probably thinking, but doesn't Ojiya hate the samurai? Will she accept food from the samurai? Yes, she does hate them. But when the hunger and desperation is real, the morals fly out the window. Plus, she has Dororo to think about as well. And surprise, surprise, Itachi is one of the samurai giving out food. Ojiya doesn't have a bowl and asks them to pour the hot food on her hand instead so she can feed Dororo. This part really made me tear up because she is thinking of her child and not herself even in such trying times. This really depicts what mothers are willing to go through for their child. She is willingly sacrificing her hands to feed Dororo and I hope Itachi burns in hell. Eventually, Ojiya collapses in a field of manjusaka red spider lily and dies from starvation. The nun hears the story and prays for both Dororo and Hikakimpura's safety on their travels. After 3 days, Dororo feels better and the two set out with Dororo trying to figure out if Hikakimpura is now aware that she is a girl. Back at Palace Daigo, a soldier reports to Daigo that Hikakimpura may potentially still be alive. Daigo was not too happy about that and as usual, Tahomaru was lurking and listening in. The lightning made this a very dramatic scene and I officially live for Tahomaru and his lurking. Ah, yes. The brother. In this episode, we mostly follow Hikakimpura's younger brother, Tahomaru. But before all that, let me introduce the monster demon for this episode. Meet Bakumajani, an aquatic monster demon. Palace Daigo is in trouble at. There is a drought and people of Asakura are gathering an army at the border. He goes to the Hall of Hell because where else would you go in times of trouble, and sees that quite a bit of the statues are now split in half. He confirms that it is indeed Hikakimpura who has slain the demons and is trying to get his organs and senses back. Tahomaru, whose hair is quite amazing, takes this chance and orders his two bodyguards, Matsu and Hyogo, to find out what they can about the baby. Oh, before any confusion arises, the bodyguards are dudes. Brothers, in fact. I know. The shock was real. Daigo is deep in thought when Tahomaru comes up to him and asks about the baby Daigo has been looking for. Daigo gets really angry and Tahomaru runs to his peaceful spot. His two bodyguards come after him and I feel a little sad for Tahomaru as we get a glimpse of him as a tiny tot. His two bodyguards were always with him and were the ones to look for him whenever he was sad while his parents were too busy with their issues. He was also quite an adorable child. As they are going back to Palace Daigo, Tahomaru and his bodyguards find out about Bakumagani. They try to defeat the demon Butor, it doesn't go well and they all retreat. Tahomaru is a little down, but then promptly cheers himself by proudly proclaiming that the land Daigo rules over used to be in a horrible condition, but his father had changed all that and the land was now prosperous. So you blissfully ignorant child. He thinks of an incredibly clever plan and it almost works. Unfortunately for Tahomaru, Bakumagani manages to break his trap and the situation turns dangerous for everyone involved. One of Tahomaru's bodyguards are about to be eaten by Bakumagani, but fear not. Just in the nick of time, Hikakimper comes out of nowhere and kills it. Can you feel the brotherly love? In his fate at work, Tahamura is left wondering who killed Bakamigani as everyone retreats. Also, Nyanokta has just been praying to the Headless Goddess of Mercy statue for the entire episode and... I have nothing against you, lady. But I don't think that's going to work. You husband has literally made a deal with demons. Praying might be a lie late now. Banman's story begins like this. Banman is a demon and Hikakimper kills him. I am kidding. This time, Banman is a fort. Well, a fort built by Dago, so we know from that it is nothing good. Oh, yes, less of a fort and more a wooden wall. Also, I can't keep up with the titles anymore. When I saw the title preview last time, I was sure it was another demon, but *I**V started a little game now where I guess whether the name in the title belongs to a demon, human or place. The episode continues from where we left off last time. Tahamura is shocked by Hikakimper's abilities and Dororo is able to extort gratitude and money from Tahamura. I love this kid. Tahamura's bodyguards sure do love to run their mouth about how Hikakimper and Tahamura can be compared as one is a vagabond and the other is an heir when Tahamura expresses his worries. Well, that vagabond saved your butts and joked on you. Seeing as how he is your true heir. Dororo and Hikakimper then set out for Dago's land. Dun fusion! Hikakimper also seems to be a little concerned about Tahamura's soul, but nothing more is elaborated on it, so I am hoping the next episode touches up on it. After arriving at Dago's land, Dororo and Hikakimper see a play that depicts Dago as someone blessed by the Goddess of Mercy and as a great warrior who defeated demons. Man, that cannot be more wrong. I cannot emphasize enough times that he made a deal with the demons. He needs them alive, not dead! Buwashu is also at the play and the trio catch up afterwards. Buwashu was there to check out the Hall of Hell and tells Hikakimper to be careful as he is able to see changes in Hikakimper's soul after he has killed humans. Dororo and Hikakimper find out that there is something strange going on at Banman and make their way there. Dago finds out about Hikakimper from Tahamura's two guards and sets out for Banman himself with a small squadron despite Nyanokta begging him to stop. Tahamura is lurking once again. Someone make this boy a spy or something already. The news about Dago's departure reaches some mysterious dude who smirks at the intel. While at Banman, Hikakimper and Dororo come across Sukaraka, a boy whose village was burnt down to make Banman. Hikakimper senses a strong demon in Banman and fights against the fox spirit at night. He takes on some damage and Dororo aids him by throwing rocks at the fox. Sukaraka takes this chance and crosses to Asakura's side of the wall. Dororo chases after him, leaving Hikakimper to deal with the fox. The fox spirit is able to get away as Dago and his men interrupt the fight. Dago and Hikakimper come face to face and oh boy, I am looking forward to this face-off. Elsewhere, Tahamura finds out about Hikakimper as a baby from a crazy lady and Buwashu arrives at the Hall of Hell. I'm not too sure if Tahamura will believe the crazy lady and put two and two together or whether he'll just ignore her ramblings, so I am looking forward to that too. The episode ends with a scene of the Goddess of Mercy statue cracking and that cannot be a good sign. So Dago calls Hikakimper a Demenschled. I am so frustrated with this man. I can't even explain it. We pick up from the last episode where Dago and Hikakimper come face to face. Hikakimper is able to see that Dago's soul is demon red in it and asks Dago what he is, but all Dago does is ask Hikakimper, quite repetitively, about how he is still alive and then orders his men to kill him. That's not how you greet your returning son, you know. Hikakimper manages to get away, but Dago's words have an effect on him as he recalls them over and over again. Meanwhile, Dororo, who had gone to save Sukaraka, ends up getting captured instead. Oh, the irony! The Ray kept in Asakura's prison with the other prisoners and Dororo manages to escape. She also notices a cloth belonging to one of the prisoners that has the same family crest as the one on Hikakimper's amulet and is told that it has Dago's family crest. Back at Palace Dago, Tahamura confronts his mother about Hikakimper and is shocked to know the truth behind the prosperity of Dago's land and the fate of his older brother. He is also faced with a moral decision where he has to decide whether to fight with his father and prevent the land from plummeting into its harsher times, or not fight and stand with his brother. In the end, he decides to fight. He loses and yeah, you know, karma. Hikakimper infiltrates Palace Dago during Tahamura, Dago and Nyanokta's discussion and is attacked. His mother calls out to him and he hesitates a bit before running off. Hikakimper narrates all this to Dororo, who somehow escaped Asakura's prison and conveniently found Hikakimper, and Dororo congratulates him on finding his family. Sis, that ain't it. That ain't it at all. Hikakimper says Akashan and smiles. Meanwhile, Asakura has declared war by shooting prisoners onto the wall, but by some miracle, Sakuraka is not hit. He is freaked out, but he is safe. Silver linings and all that. The fox spirits of Banman then join in and Nyanokta also makes her way to the battlefield on horseback. Lady S finally being proactive. Hikakimper arrives at the battlefield and Dago labels him as a demon. One of the guards recognizes him from when Mayo was killed and Hikakimper becomes furious as he remembers the guard as well but calms down as Dororo holds him back. Tahamura introduces himself as Hikakimper's younger brother and states while he does not condone his parents' actions, He cannot sacrifice his people for him. The two fight as Dororo tries to induce Sakuraga's ropes. Hikakimper manages kill the fox spirit, which is then sucked into Banman, and Neonokta arrives at the battlefield. The poor woman voices her regrets and sorrow for how she was unable to do anything for him, for how the people are surviving because of his sacrifice, and all they can do is ask for his forgiveness. She resolves to not let him suffer alone, and as she can save him, she will suffer with him. She plunges a dagger into her heart, and the goddess of mercy statue collapses the Banman. Someone please explain how she is suffering with him if she is dead, though. Dago's army take Tohamura and Neonokta back to Palace Dago in the middle of the chaos, and Sakuraka reunites with his mother. Buwomura finds the goddess of mercy statue and watches as the green color of its soul disappears. Now, call me superstitious, but this cannot be good, guys. This cannot be good at all. The episode was so intense and emotional. I teared up a bit when Neonokta stabbed herself and Hikakimper looked shocked, disturbed. We were not sure she is completely dead yet, but with how the statue lost its color. Hikakimper has been killing demons after leaving the land of Dago, so Dororo tries to get Hikakimper to an onsen so he can get a little R&R, but Hikakimper ignores her. The only way she is able to convince him to visit one is by mentioning that there is a demon near it. She is a smart one. Our little Dororo. Meanwhile, Dago's land receives some much-needed rain, and Hikakimper's mom has failed her suicide attempt, thank God. But it seems that Tohamura is blind in his right eye now. We then see a woman dragging a man behind a waterfall. Said man then loses his face as a really big statue cuts it right off. Yes, you read that right. Crazy woman help demon slice off a man's face. That is good headline. The statue then tries to take on the man's face but fails, and it seems that the woman is looking for the right face. I don't like where this is going. I am not a fan of sacrifices. Unfortunately, Hikakimper and Dororo cross paths with her. Her name is Okaka, and Dororo is a little emotional at first because she looked so much like her mother. She drags Okaka with her to Hikakimper to confirm if she has a ghoul or not, but he tells her that he is unable to tell. Okaka tells Hikakimper and Dororo about the statue and how a forgotten carver wanted to make a fearsome statue during the war but called tea and died before ever finishing it. Dororo starts calling Okaka Okashin, explaining that it is easier than Okakashin. All I could think was that, Dororo, my sweet child, you do not want to go down that road. And I was right. I was so right. Okaka drugs Dororo and Hikakimper, then continues the story about the statue and the carver. Apparently, after the carver died, a vengeful spirit had made its home in the statue and wanted a face too. So it did the most logical thing and revived the carver to bring it faces so the statue would be complete. Here is another kicker. Okaka is that carver. Dororo's face is that of a child, so she drags off Hikakimper instead. Dororo pleads with her to leave Hikakimper, and in her moment of weakness to Dororo's heartfelt pleas, Okaka suffers a strike from the statue's blade. This provides an opening for Hikakimper to strike back and kill the spirit. Okaka then shrivels up and disintegrates, and leaving behind her hair and clothes. You didn't need to know what she left behind. I just thought it was interesting that her hair didn't disintegrate too. Dororo and Hikakimper then make their way to an onsen where they meet Buwashu, and the children discover that a map has appeared on Dororo's map. So it turns out that the map on Dororo's back is actually half of a map that leads to money stored away by her father for the rebellion. The other half is on her mother's back. There is a little discord between Dororo and Hikakimper. Dororo is confused about what she should do now that she has the map, while Hikakimper is obsessed with just killing demons, which is a little concerning. The duo meet a childlike monster in the woods, who gets quite attached to Dororo. As they all make their way through the forest, they come across a burnt-down temple. Dororo tries to break free of the monster while Hikakimper takes a look around and finds oil, suggesting that the temple may have burnt down. A man arrives with flowers and offers them at the temple. He introduces himself as Sabami, the lord of the land, and invites Dororo and Hikakimper to stay over as it's dangerous at night. This reminds me of Kimetsu no Yaiba a bit. The man is a bit eerie, and Hikakimper sees demon red in his soul. The duo arrive at Sabami's place where they eat and enjoy an old dance form, but it all comes to a halt when Dororo offhandedly mentions the childlike monster. Sabami tells them that the temple used to have a nun who took in orphans from neighboring villages, worked them to the bone, and then sold them off. The temple was then struck by lightning one day, and the children died in the fire with the nun. Dororo and Hikakimper aren't convinced that the entire story is true and decide to wait it out and see what happens. A caterpillar monster attacks them while they are sleeping, but Hikakimper manages to hold it off. In its distress, the caterpillar calls out and is saved by a moth. Dororo and Hikakimper plan out their next step while the moth, who is able to transform into a lady, goes to Sabami. The two look to be on quite friendly terms, and the Mulhidley seems to know of Hikakimper. Sabami declares that he won't let anything happen to her or the children. The woman smiles, and we're given full view of her razor-sharp teeth. So Hikakimper grows a backbone. Quite literally. It turns out that the entire village is a little twisted and is aware of the monsters that go bump at night. When Dororo goes exploring for clues, the villagers lock her in a rice storeroom with the moth larvae. But She is saved by the baby monster. The monster bursts open and the spirits of the children who were involved in the temple fire come out. They guide Dororo out of the storeroom and they also tell her the truth behind the fire. Sabami had killed the nun and the villagers had set fire to the temple so that they could feed the children to Mimianba, the moth monster lady. Dororo also sets fire to the storeroom, effectively destroying the larvae and the rice. This causes the villagers to fight amongst themselves and peace in the village crumbles. Meanwhile, Hikakimpra finds out that Sabami had taken Mimianba as his wife in order to protect the village from samurais and famine. Newly emerged moths then attack Hikakimpra and he fights back aggressively. The last moth manages to injure Hikakimpra and then makes its way to the village. Hikakimpra manages to find Mimianba in the middle of a lake/river/huge body of water and kills her, getting his spine back in return, hence my earlier wordplay. Dororo and Hikakimpra make their way to the village where many of them have died in the fire, including Sabami. Dororo expresses her doubt on whether they've done the right thing or not, but Hikakimpra does not care as long as he is killing demons and getting his body back. He is so blinded by his thoughts that he doesn't realize that Dororo has gone off on her own. I found this quite sad, but I am hoping it'll help Hikakimpra gain a bit of his humanity back and cool his head a little. On a road different that Hikakimpra is. Dororo grumbles to herself that Aniki should listen to her once in a while when she comes across Itachi. Somehow, he has managed to get a hold of the half of the map that was on Dororo's mother's back and has been looking for Dororo to find the other half. This was an interesting watch. We had double trouble this episode thanks to the main Little Jaws cloning itself. To my disappointment, Hikakimpra doesn't arrive conveniently to save Dororo from Itachi. In fact, she is dragged off by Itachi despite showing him that her back had no map for it. As for how Itachi got the map from a dead woman's back, well, he dug her up. Yup, I know, Itachi is trash. Itachi. Dororo and Itachi's crew arrive at some place where they were supposed to cross the sea in order to reach Cape Haktosu. The group then make their way to the village to try and get some boats, but it is in shambles and there is evidence of violence which leads everyone to think that the culprits are probably brigands. A young boy named Shiranu offers to assist them in return for compensation by offering them a ride in his boats pulled by sharks, hence the Jaws comment earlier. Unfortunately for Itachi's men, Shiranu seems to be a bit deranged. Turns out, he is the one who attacked the villagers and fed them to Yuramura and Saburamawaka the sharks. He even gave them his arm to the sharks so they wouldn't go hungry. I mean, it is always nice to see a passionate animal lover, but Shiranu might be a bit too intense for me. So one boat is down and one is left with Itachi, Dororo and a few more of Itachi's men on it. Shiranu then leaves on Yuramura with Saburamawa acting as guard. Itachi then recalls his sad tale about how his lord left him to die. Itachi's men then start losing hope only to be told off by Dororo, who jumps into the sea to lure out Saburamawa so the men can kill it with their katanas. They somehow manage to paddle their way to their original destination and beat up Shiranu when he comes to investigate what had happened to Yuramura. Despite Dororo being the main reason they were all safe, Itachi presses on with the issue of the map and strips Dororo to find out that she is a girl. Okay guys, a little advice involving old men and stripping children don't tea. Unfortunately, the heat from the fire warms Dororo's back and reveals the map. Now armed with the full map and Dororo tied to a tree, Itachi is free to obtain all the wealth Dororo's father left her to start a revolution for himself. Meanwhile, Hikakimpra is stumbling about trying to find Dororo when a passerby tells him about Juki. Oh, how we've come full circle! Hikakimpra and Juki had a reunion and my heart was singing! They maybe could be met under less dramatic circumstances, but it was still a happy occasion. The episode begins with Juki fruitlessly putting in missing limbs of the dead when a ghoul appears. Hikakimpra arrives just in time to save Juki, who is overcome with nostalgia after seeing Hikakimpra and remembers the time when they used to live together. Juki goes up to him and cradles his face, commenting how terrifying he has become, and Hikakimpra smiles gently. They sort of nuzzle each other and it was so cute! I am so glad that they managed to meet each other again and spend some time with each other. All their scenes during the entire episode made me realize that Juki may have been the only person to show Hikakimpra any affection, and that honestly made me really sad. So their little interaction at the beginning really packs a punch and highlights just how unfair Hikakimpara's entire life has been. Juki notices all the differences in Hikakimpara. His skin, he can smile, he is able to feel pain and cold, and he is able to talk and hear. Hikakimpara also tells Juki about Dago and the demons and that he needs a new leg in order to continue fighting. Though horrified at what his father has done to him, Juki refuses. He states his doubt about whether he did the right thing by raising Hikakimpara, and that if he gives Hikakimpara a new leg, and therefore enabling him to fight again, Hikakimpara might push himself further away from being human, even though he'll look more human than before. Juki even goes as far as to damage the spare leg he has to prevent himself from giving a new leg to Hikakimpara. Suddenly, due to a landslide, the entrance to Juki's cave gets blocked and the two are stuck inside. While trying to dig his way out, Juki asks Hikakimpara why he wants his body back, and Hikakimpara gives a really simple and obvious answer: because it is his. Guys, let me tell you, I felt that statement in my soul. He doesn't need a complex or righteous reason. The bottom line and the heart of the matter is that it is his body and it was taken from him without permission. He has every right to take it back. The morality of sacrificing an entire domain does come into question, but that is Daigo and the domain's problem. Hikakimper did not volunteer to have his body taken from him, nor did he ask to have the fate of an entire domain on his shoulders. Once out of the cave, Juki and Hikakimper notice that the fruit from a tree called Ikadishi produces ghouls. Hikakimper strikes down all the ghouls and stabs the heart of the tree to end the entire fiasco. Juki then sends Hikakimper on his way. Not sure if he has given a leg or not though. Hikakimper tries asking for Juki's name before leaving, but Juki responds that it is not something he needs to know. Hikakimper tells Juki that he is aware that Juki is Izakishan, leaving Juki and me touched and teary. Meanwhile, Tohomura has gathered his resolve and swears loyalty to Daigo. He leaves his home with a small army to the last location Hikakimper was seen in order to kill him. Also, Hikakimper's mother arrives at the conclusion that the reason Hikakimper is alive is because the Goddess of Mercy statue had sacrificed its head in place of Hikakimper, thus nullifying the contract and ensuring the downfall of Daigo's land. This was a really heartwarming episode where I was glad to see that someone was looking out for Hikakimper, apart from Dororo of course. Hikakimper is currently on his way to where Itachi and Dororo are, so hopefully we get another reunion next week. Yay! Another reunion! This time it is between Dororo and Hikakimper. Dororo is about to be eaten by the Jiromasaurus, a hybrid shark, when Hikakimper arrives just in time to save Dororo. He defeats the shark monster and gets his leg back, which is a good thing because now Hikakimper can fight and get back what S originally as well. That S what would be happen if the world was just unfair. But it is not. So, of course, Tohomura came with his army to kill his brother. It doesn't do much good because the crazy shark boy kinda blows up the mountain while Itachi's gang, Hikakimper and Tohomura are all fighting and Tohomura's army is rendered useless, Aka dead. Tohomura also runs away with his overlord sidekicks. Like, it is so ridiculous that even with his sidekick aiding him, Tohomura is unable to defeat Hikakimper, and yet one of the sidekicks had the audacity to say that Tohomura's resolve is stronger and blames Hikakimper for their land's misfortunes. They're just so fucking ignorant and messed up. Your stupid land was on the verge of dying out long back, but Daigo in his greed gave it some time by sacrificing a child. I'm going to say this again. He sacrifices a child with no remorse. He just prolonged the inevitable. Yet why all be running your mouths without understanding anything? This is so frustrating for me because they're way aware of exactly what happened and yet they're way turning a blind eye and using the domain's resources to kill Hikakimper. Because killing an innocent is nothing for the citizens of Daigo's domain. The freaking pricks. Oh, I'm so mad. Moving on. Dororo finds her dad's treasure but decides to leave it behind until she has a plan for it and is able to use it properly. She does take a bit for their living expenses, but I am sure that is forgivable. The duo arrive at a village looking for a blacksmith, Minatsuna, to fix Hikakimper's broken swords. I loved how cute Hikakimper was being with the horse, and watching him rub his forehead against everyone is so entertaining. He deserves everything. In case you couldn't tell, Hikakimper is my bias and I am not going to apologize for it. The ghoul in episode 19 was just a mischievous little thing. It was fairly easy to get rid of and required zero violence. The episode was lighthearted and fun to watch with all the misunderstandings with Okawa, Hikakimper, Dororo and the townspeople. Things are not going well for Daigo. In fact, things aren't going well for Hikakimper either. Daigo's land is deteriorating, crops are withering, sickness is running rampant and people are dying. Tohomura, unable to see all this, decides to take Matsu and Hyogo to find and kill Hikakimper once and for all. Meanwhile, Hikakimper and Dororo are on their way to defeat a monster when they meet Saburota, a good-looking fellow who is also after the same monster for killing his mother, and they decide to hunt the monster together. Except, Saburota, traumatized by his cowardice when he first faced the new, enjoys the terror he sees on people's faces as they are devoured by the new. He gets in now when he sees Hikakimper take on the monster and comments he had aspired to be like Hikakimper, but when the moment of truth came, he abandoned his mother and saved his own life. The new eats Saburota and the two are fused together. Hikakimper finally slays the hybrid new, but no part of his body is returned to him. Angered and desperate, Hikakimper continues to hack at it as Dororo watches sadly. Hikakimper realizes that he can no longer avoid his confrontation with Daigo to get the rest of his body back. Hikakimper and Dororo make their way to Daigo's lands when they are intercepted by Tohomura, Matsu, and Hyogo. Hikakimper manages to severely wound Matsu and Hyogo by severing one of their arms. He also cuts Tohomura's eye again and Dororo watches in horror at how savage Hikakimper is becoming. The fight is interrupted when Daigo's men, sent by Daigo as Tohomura's backup, manage to blow Hikakimper off the ravine's edge by sending a horse loaded with explosives towards him. Hikakimper is considered dead and Dororo is taken as a hostage/kidnapped. Unknown to the others, the horse is possessed by spirits, turning it into a flaming horse. As we're all aware by now, The fight between the brothers turns unfortunate for Tamura. Dororo delivers the winning blow but does not kill Tamura, proving Dororo as comment in the previous episode that no matter how big your ambitions are, if your heart is strong, you will not be controlled by them. Tamura also realizes that no matter how things would be turned out, the demon would not have been satisfied and thus gouges out Hikakimper's eyes from his face before the demon could use them to control him. Hikakimper then slays the demon's heart which was under the floorboards of the castle and is finally whole for the first time. Juki gives him a newly carved Goddess of Mercy statue to remind him of his humanity. Dororo and Hikakimper reunite and make their out of the burning castle whereas Nyanokta stays back with Tamura. This scene was really heavy for me since I hoped that the two of them would survive and the three of them would somehow repair their little family, but it appears that that wasn't to be. On the other hand, Dago's forces are defeated and he drags himself to the Hall of Hell, where Hikakimper finds him. Dago is still stubborn about his ordeal, but when Hikakimper says his piece and leaves behind the Goddess of Mercy statue, Dago realizes that if he had made his pact with the demons, Hikakimper may have saved the domain and helped it prosper. Meanwhile, Dororo, willing to use her money to help the villagers get back on their feet, waits for Hikakimper to return so they can go get the money together. The Bawashu then tells Dororo that Hikakimper may need some time to travel and heal from everything that he has done to attain his body. Dororo, hesitant and upset, accepts Hikakimper's decision and the duo officially part ways. The Bawashu, however, believes that after they have healed from the tears, sadness, and pain from the past, the two will meet again. The final scene shows a grown-up Dororo, who looks just like her mother, running towards an older and smiling Hikakimper. These were incredibly emotional episodes. As the final episode approaches, the characters have begun to reevaluate their relationships and purpose in life. Picking up from the last episode, Nyanokta frees the captured Dororo and the two form an unlikely bond. They talk about Hikakimper as they make their escape from the castle and Nyanokta is thankful towards Dororo for staying by her son's side. During their escape, their boat is smashed in the river and they are rescued by the villagers in the Bawashi. Matsu, sick and desperate, makes her way to the Hall of Hell in a final effort to rid Dago's land of its calamities. Unfortunately, the 12th demon does not accept her deal as only Hikakimper's body can fulfill the contract. The demon grants Yogo and Matsu one each of Hikakimper's arms and grants Tamura Hikakimper's eyes. The trio then prepare to take up arms against Hikakimper for the last time. Hikakimper, true to the meaning of his name, shocks the onlookers with his desperation and savagery as he fights Tamura. He fights against the warnings from Juki about humanity and questions why would he not be human if all he is doing is getting back the body that is his. He gets his arms back as the flaming horse, who aids Hikakimper in the fight, kills Hyogo and Matsu. Hikakimper and Tamura's fight ends up being in the castle. Tamura comments that Hikakimper will die where he was born as the castle drowns in a sea of fire. I have to say that one of my favorite scenes from these two episodes was from episode 23 when the villagers suggest that Hikakimper should just give his body back to the demons so the entire ordeal will stop and Dororo just launches herself at them. The conversation that followed was also Thodrup Goship that instead of living off the sacrifice of others, you should be responsible for providing for yourself and protecting things that are precious to you. A person only deserves the things he is willing to get with his own two hands, which is what Hikakimper is currently doing. The argument of overdoing it and being too zealous about it also comes up, as is the case of Hikakimper at this point also, but Dororo argues that as long as the heart is strong, the mind will not fall weak. With that, she runs off to find her Aniki and be his unwavering support so he won't turn into a monster.